Master Farrakhan Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. You loved Muhammad Ali, Minister Malcolm X, many other great luminaries that came up in the world. Ask yourself where they come from. And it all started with this man that came to Black Bottom, Detroit, Master Farrakhan Muhammad, and he found one that became a 100% convert to himself. That's important because as someone who, in a reckless way, and they're not informed, tried to describe the Nation of Islam, one thing he said that was correct: our warfare, our form of warfare, which is spiritual warfare, is to produce a civilization superior to the one that we've been enslaved to. We're not trying to fight them in this present world order for inclusion. We're trying to qualify ourselves to a God who has the knowledge, wisdom, and power to set up a superior civilization to the one that we're living in. So we are thankful that this 100% convert, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, he proved that if none of us wanted to accept this man, he proved that if none of us wanted to accept what this man revealed to him, he would stand with that man and he would stand with that revelation. And he proved that between Rome and the Vatican, between this United States government and Mecca, nobody could take the Honorable Elijah Muhammad down. And the truth that he left us with is proving to be invincible. Every effort to destroy it and cover him up and cover that truth up is finding itself in failure. And it is proven what's called the efficacy of his wisdom. That means it produced something, and it produced someone. And if Jesus is right, and he is, that trees are known by the fruit they bear, so men are known by their works. And people look at the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and because we're so carnal and physical, because that's who our teachers have been, they've been non-spiritual people. They don't point to spiritual fruit, they don't point to spiritual work, they only make you look commercially. So when people look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they talk about farmland, they talk about stores and shops and productivity in the world, but that's just a manifestation of the spiritual feeding of a man. And I'm here to tell you that the greatest work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was to help shape and fashion a man that in his absence is solely responsible by the permission of Allah to bring back the Nation of Islam, and that's the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. So I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. Salam alaikum. Family, I know that this is a difficult period for citizens of the world. Such a teachable moment as this ought to unite people in the world. But you still see that the world is seething with great divisions. This coronavirus, which was supposed to have started in a province in China, and we were supposed to see in China widespread death, according to medical experts that we're talking with, one of the safest places to be right now is China. Because when you're amongst people who will look honestly at what they're up against and deal with it from that honest outlook, those are people that can get on top of a situation. In our own lives, if we don't look honestly at what's really bringing disaster and misfortune to our own lives, you never get on top of the situations in your own life. And you prolong something because you never faced yourself. This country was notified as far back as October that something was amiss. Worried about rich people and the stock market caused them to put it off and delay it as if it would not come here. So the Chinese people, it looked like they were experiencing an epidemic that would bring widespread carnage in that country. And what would this country care, since they owe China so much money? They not only can't pay China back, they don't want to pay them back. And they need an occasion that will get them out of this debt. The same way they have robbed the Social Security treasure, and they don't want to pay it back. And so to keep from paying it back, they're trying to change the language of Social Security. Now, if you've worked a job and you get your paycheck, you'll see that they already took the Social Security out from money that you earn from gross pay. But they're changing the language to make it sound like it's an entitlement. You know what an entitlement means? That somebody just gave you some charity. And if we buy into that, they can turn around and say, well, we're going to get rid of this entitlement, so all the money that you're putting into Social Security, they never have to give you any of it. So they're trying to do China the same way. But lo and behold, as God would have it, and you can't take God out of it. That doesn't mean that it's the active will of Allah to see widespread death, but we need to ask ourselves, why is he permitting it and allowing it to happen? So this government decided that they were going to lead this thing according to the way they wanted to go and not the way the medical experts were telling them. And immediately the American people can see the contrast and the gross contradictions between what President Trump is saying and what the experts are saying. And so it kept this country from really coming up with a national plan. When President Obama was in, he had a whole office set up for this, which according to the white woman that he had over that office, she said if that office had still been set up, we'd have been doing tests somewhere around New Year's Eve while people are partying and trying to bring in the next year. So this press conference that Donald Trump just had, that's a press conference that should have took place somewhere around December 31st at the latest. So you can tell you can't be guided properly by liars. People that won't tell you the truth cannot guide a nation properly. And that's the kind of leadership that we've been under in the present world. Now, they're starting to shut down things now because they realize that the more crowds are out, the more they're exposed to this. And the tests have to come. And if the tests show up that we are exposed or you've contracted something, then they got to get you into some kind of hospital or some kind of what they call a quarantine situation. You following me? And that's our subject today, quarantine. But the quarantine that we want to talk about is not the kind that you see medical experts and first responders really doing here. We're talking about the call of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because there's a spiritual quarantine that's supposed to be taking place that black people in America have been running from. We're running the stores to take disinfectant sanitizers off the shelf because people now are mildly panicking over this situation. So folks are fighting now. You thought they were fighting during the Christmas season. In the stores and stuff, you're about to really see, because now it's not an epidemic, it's a pandemic, it's global. And no country is exempt. China immediately shut down and quarantined large parts of its population so they could stop the spread of it, find out what it is, find a way to take care of the people who had contracted it. And now out of 80,000 people over there that had contracted it, 60,000 have recovered. That's out of China, right? But here, knowing that information far before any average citizen knew it, rather than trying to partner with the Chinese and exchange information so they could find out what to do here, they're worried about rich people down on Wall Street, and they don't want to say we're suffering from a pandemic because they think it's going to affect the stock market. But by lying, you done hurt Wall Street more. Because the average American that's blessed to work, they're on Main Street, but many of us are on no name street. Our issues never come up. Nobody's ever talked. There's a presidential race going on right now, and most of the things that impact us are not a part of the candidates' discussion. We're already quarantined, which means to be set aside, to be separated or isolated. We're already been quarantined because we're segregated. Segregated means they've cordoned you off and they've set you to the side, but they still want absolute control over you. Separation would mean something else. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad preached that a whole new world is coming in, and he said an going out. That's not a whole new earth that's going to be destroyed. The earth is the Lord's. It will be here. But the world and the earth are not the same. The world is a sphere of mental activity resulting in systems that we live under. We live under a political system that will be going out. And when we were at the Watergate Hotel, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, the man that's in office right now, 45, is the last president. Now, what would that mean? That would mean that the fall of America has to be taking place right now before he goes out of office, or he would win re-election, right? Or this thing will get so bad that he will suspend the election and put the country under martial law. Now, they already shut down the basketball game. This whole thing done shut down. They've shut down banks. They've shut down schools. They're shutting down institutionally one after the other. Sport and play is a big thing in this world. That's a big decision to shut it down. The presidential debate tonight, they don't want people there. So you just have to view it by television. They're taking these kind of steps. What you're getting is a mild snapshot of the fall of America. You're just getting a peep at it. And what you're also getting, you're getting a measuring rod of how dependent we are on them. Right in this city, the schools have closed down. And when the schools close down, already from our households, we're crying out, how is my baby going to eat? Even under slavery, our children ate. When we were on the plantations of the South, we never starved. How the hell are we starving now in the 21st century? How did we get in a state like this where we're so damn dependent that you can't fix some grits or something for your child in the morning? The school got to be open in order for your child to eat. How the hell did we get in a state like this? What kind of leadership have we been under? Nobody that's under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is in the bread line today. And we didn't have to be like this. I spoke a few weeks ago about the King Alfred plan. Secret plan that's been in the government for years, but it shows how the government would take measured steps to move from what we've known and call a democracy into a totalitarian regime. Well, you're under some kind of martial law right now. We've been instructed what's going to be open, and we've been instructed what's closing down. Is that right? And nobody asked you or me, do we agree with that? That's coming from arbitrary decisions, and it's a government seat, and then we have to comply. Now, how long we'll stay closed down? Right now, they're talking about 2 weeks in that. They've held off on shutting your lights off. They've held off on gas shutoffs. So they're appealing to the utility company. I just want you to watch what's going on. But they'll be lifting that by April 1st. See, they want this money to keep coming in. Many of the larger churches, because they said older people are catching it, and older people, most of them have some kind of underlying health challenge, and it makes them more vulnerable to the virus. So our churches are laden with not young people, but older people whose immune systems are weaker now. It didn't have to be that way. The book, How to Eat to Live, has been with us since the 30s. It didn't have to be this way. I'm in my 60s, but my immune system is working. And there are a lot of people in the nation that are older than I am. They're out this Sunday, and we're able to talk. We don't need walkers and canes and wheelchairs. Are you following? I ain't come in here on no stretcher. And it's not because I got a good health plan. It's because God revealed something to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You don't have better health guidance than that which comes from God himself. We got to stop playing with this. We have already learned, and we've been talking about it for a long time, that we should store food up in our houses. Now, we're getting some specific directives. You better put something away for at least 3 months. You know, I went in a store yesterday morning and I saw the fallout from the panic on Friday. Shelves were just raked off with stuff. People grab roast beef, eggs, they grab everything. That's, you know, and the only thing that was real abundant in the store was fresh fruits and vegetables. So I grabbed a lot of fruit and different things and that, and I'm sitting up watching. From Montgomery to Memphis, it chronicles the whole civil rights journey of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I was just watching the 1963 March on Washington. You see all these black people out there, thousands. And you know what you don't see? Obesity. You don't see one overweight person in that march. Why? Because see, in 1963, our women cooked. In 1963, most black men, young black men and boys, when they came up in homes where they ate home-cooked meals. Some of us were pork eaters, but you still ate a home-cooked meal. When I went to the march 50 years later in 2013, not only was it a whole lot of people big and overweight, we were on walkers. Some people were sitting up when the speeches were being given on oxygen tanks. You see what the fast food industry has done to us. You didn't have a lot of fast food in 1963. And people were used to, even if you ate a sandwich, you fixed one at home. Are you following now? See, a lot has happened in this country in 50 years. From that time. And so when I saw the rating in the store, you know, the kind of things that were gone were the things you needed to leave on the shelf. But people are panicking now that there's a shutdown. So I thought today, you know, we really need to talk about quarantine. Because God has to quarantine his own people. Look at the words of Moses to Pharaoh. Thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may come into the desert and worship me. And Pharaoh's reply was, you can worship right here in Egypt. And Moses said, no, because every abomination is here in Egypt and we can't worship our God properly. We need to be quarantined from you in order to have a real wholesome worship. You can't clean yourself up in dirty water. I see people after the clean, living water that comes out of the preaching of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and a program that flows from it that helps not only to clean you up, but keep you clean. People will say, well, I'm going to leave Farrakhan and go back out in the dirty water, but I got the teaching, so I'm cleaning up out here. You turn away from God and then tell me, after I clean up, I'm coming back to God. God is the soap and water. When you turn from him, you turn from the only thing that can clean you up. We weren't cleaning up until that man showed up in Detroit. And after his showing up in Detroit, and we began to clean up, all of a sudden persecution started from people who live a more defiled existence. So the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, you know, if you could just walk with me a minute, you seem to be ill. You go to the emergency room. What's the first thing they try to do to you? They want an examination of you. So they take your vital signs. Now, just the word vital shows you that what they're about to check you out from is what's vital to your being able to stay alive. So they want to check your temperature. They want to check your respiration. They want to check your pulse. They want to check your blood pressure. But there are things that are vital to our existence. So the minister said, just like there are things vital to the continued existence of the human being, so it is with a nation. And America's vital signs, he said, show that she's on her deathbed. When someone's on their deathbed, you're not even operating with a spirit of hope that they're going to be able to recover. But see, people think there's still promise here in America. But when I was sitting up there in 1993 at the International Club there in Washington, D.C., the minister said America is on a deathbed. And he started reading the vital signs. And the vital signs showed that the people of the land are losing confidence in her ability to lead and shepherd them. So he was showing how the numbers of people that are participating in elections was going down because the American people were losing confidence in the country. Their dissatisfaction is crying out now for a solution that is beyond the ability of her own leaders to provide her with. And we keep hoping that somebody's going to come in office that's going to improve the economic condition of the black people. Let me tell you something. Nobody in this country, there's no ethnic group that has ever improved their situation because of who was in office. You know what people do? They improve their economic situation. They only want somebody in office that can help them protect what they have built and help them build on it. But they never are putting somebody in office to do for them what they should be doing for themselves. Are you following? So we're waiting, we're hoping now between candidates that somebody's going to improve our situation. What the people did to make black people poor like we are today, it was a design. And as long as we stay under that design, we ain't never going to have no money. Nothing to talk about. That's got to come, as the Honorable Louis Farrakhan taught us, from another entire mindset. The next thing we saw, he pointed out that the economic condition of America, she's borrowing this money. Are you listening to me? By the trillions now. She's in debt maybe 18, 19 trillion dollars now. $1 trillion is 1,000 billion. She owes so much money, you can't survive. Eventually, the dollar is going to fall out. It's already out of breath. And the dollar is going to fall. You think you see panic now with this virus when they tell you your money ain't no good. You're really about to see pandemonium and anarchy set in. And see, people that are less disciplined are going to be some of the first and earliest casualties when society breaks down. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm here to tell you the truth about where we're headed. Well, how do you know, Brother Rodney, it's going to happen? Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, what you see abroad is coming here. So when you see people breaking out in the streets in other countries and they're being gunned down and their tanks are shooting them down, that's headed here. So we've got internal work to do Because if this man is moving the way we see him toward a more martial law, we got just the kind of mindset in the White House to suspend the election and tell you we're going to run this thing from right here. And their executive powers already vested in a president of the United States to do something like that. So don't think this man knows that people want to make a resident change in the White House. And he knows they just about upset enough to make sure that they get him out this time. So the only way to stay in is just suspend the election. They're already showing you they can do what they want to do. In Philadelphia, we had a drill run. The Pope is coming to town. So now that the Pope is coming to town, you can't drive down the Schuylkill Expressway and go, what's that got to do with the Pope? You can just cut off exits and let people drive, but they just can't get off at certain exits since you got the Pope on Ben Franklin Parkway. But they shut that off. They shut down Ben Franklin Bridge. You don't realize how many bridges connect us. They can cut us off and control an entire population of this city and keep you and I from even getting out from an order of death. I come from a city where the mayor said, shoot to kill. He didn't even bother with telling the police, you know, try to arrest who you can and that, and if you're attacked, defend yourself. He just said, shoot to kill. And Martin Luther King went to Gage Park and marched in Chicago. He said the hatred there was greater than anything he had seen in the South. So don't tell us what they can't do. And what we're living under now is a disciplined 1% of the population and an undisciplined 99%. And that's why 70% of the wealth. They control that because we are more undisciplined. And because of that, we put ourselves in a weakened state. Socially, the vital signs read there's an erosion of the moral state in this country. When you're not moral, look at the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As the planets were made or created at right angles, so Allah created the brains of the cell of man to think right. If the brain cells were created to think right, think of what you're doing to your brain when you think wrong. He didn't say the cells of the brain of man were made to think smart, though it is smarter to be right. He said they were made to think right. So it's the moral state of the mind that gives real power to it. And it's when you become immoral. So the minister said at the root of what's destroying America is immorality. He didn't say they weren't smart. He didn't say a lack of intelligence. It's immorality. And when you're immoral, you're in moral and spiritual darkness. And the worst part about it, you think you're right, while you're dead wrong when it comes to the God of right. And so you fight against people that try to bring a law of righteousness back. And that's why we're always going to suffer, because the very nature the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that you and I were created in was a nature of righteousness. He taught us Islam is the nature of God, and it's the nature that he created you in and me in. So we operate better when we're right than when we're wrong. And wrong people can't see the end of where their wrong is going to take them. So once our thinking is weakened, you're going to see more violence. You're going to see more deviant practices among human beings, right? You're going to see us live more and more immoral as the days climb forward. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us, no matter how immoral they get, no matter how much it breaks down, your righteousness will sustain you. It'll hold you up. Stay right. But you can't stay right if you're thinking wrong. So the real quarantine that I wanted to talk about today in the few minutes we got left, the real disinfectant is the disinfectant in our thinking and of the heart. What is the state of the heart? Because if you can get the heart right, everything else will fall in place. According to our own study guide, another word for disinfectant is to be pure. First of all, a disinfectant is not put down to keep you from getting infected. You know why disinfectant is used? Because the infection is already there. Satan has already taken over 9/10 of the earth. So the minister said, if Satan has deceived the whole world, the next question he asks us, are you in the world? Well, if you're in the world, then you're one of the parties that has been deceived. And as I said before, not facing the role you play in your own problem means you're not positioning yourself to get rid of your problem. We live in a land where everybody's trained to blame everybody else for your problem. So, I never saw more people have a problem till I came with Minister Farrakhan in a work of righteousness. And from the day I came in, you know what I've been hearing? Take it or let it alone. And I said, man, if you didn't want to take it, why didn't you just leave it alone? Why don't you just walk away? Because if you walk away, if God wants you, he'll set up the circumstances to bring you back. But this man who showed up in Detroit, he didn't design this nation for casual acceptance. Well, I'm with him about 60%. But I'm with you about 40%. He don't like fractions. According to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you can't be halfway in this and halfway out. That's what I'm really trying to say to you. You can't disappear for 2 years and then you're back and then you're gone again and then you're back and then, you know what the Quran says? Why, you're neither of this nor that. You'd be of something if you just walked away. Well, I don't want to take it, Farrakhan, so I'm going to walk away. And that makes trouble for Muhammad's work, because candidates end up not pure. Candidates end up more infected than disinfected. We're working with a disinfectant when we come into a life and pray to the right God. Prayer, one of the purposes of prayer is purification of the heart. Are y'all listening to me now? And Moses had to tell him, I can't take the believers and pray in Egypt. They've been, for 400 years, they've been praying to your God. Look how dependent we are on a modern day Pharaoh and a modern day house of bondage right now. You can't get an egg from a black person. Everything, when we leave here today, if you're going to get toilet paper, you're going to something the white man have set up. We are not independent, so stop sticking your chest out. We're very independent. This time is set up to really test our military and test our militancy toward the bringing in of something new. You may not like the test, but hell, it's here now. We should have been studying and getting ready for an hour like this, because it's already on us. And it's going to test us how pure is the relationship that we have been trying to develop here. Another word for pure, well, let me go first with this disinfectant and purity. Our study guide says to be pure is to be freed up from anything, number one, that's inferior. Now, anybody that leaves God is going to join up with children of a lesser God. Let's start right there. Once you leave God, you're leaving a supreme level of principles that if you apply them in your life, you get some supreme level results. That's the way it's supposed to work. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that in the very universe that we live, when something is superior to something else, the inferior thing always submits to what's inferior. So we've been made so carnal, we could never embrace principles like this. So you know we need a physical example. So let's look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He comes up in this white man's world. He don't even get through the 4th grade of schooling. He meets God. Now maybe you say it wasn't God that he met, but he said if it ain't a God, I'm dealing with a greater devil than the one you serving right now. He meets God and he declares himself independent of our 400-year-old enemies. Not one white man that we know of even dared to come try to take the life of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when you see some of the old footage, I mean, the kind of brotherhood that we had, they were so fierce, Minister Farrakhan said. I mean, they drove fear out of you to get you ready for separation from this man. Do you know why some of our people don't want to separate from him? They're afraid that we can't make it on our own. Are y'all listening to me now? So the whole talk of separation is going to require a vote, because some people are afraid maybe we haven't grown up enough to do it. We got to start somewhere. So first thing we have to do, we have to be freed up from anything that's inferior. If Minister Farrakhan is the man appointed, is the man anointed, and this is the major source as a fountain for us to drink from to grow into better human beings, he's either that or he's not. And if he is, then who is better, the Quran say? The person who is wholly committed to one man, or you who follow two men that are not in agreement with each other. And the two men primarily in this world order that are not in agreement with each other is the scientist and the theologian. Because the theologian will tell you that all creation started 6,000 years ago. But when you go watch documentaries from their own scientists, they go back millions of years, just as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. But you're going to keep following two men that ain't in agreement with each other. But when I came to this, we started looking toward one man and following one man wholly, than to be a slave and labor under two men that are not in agreement with each other. I hope you're listening to me. So we've got to get freed up from everything that's inferior. The diet of this world is an inferior diet. It will not preserve our bodies long enough to experience what we call the hereafter. You can't eat murder burgers, suicide fries. You're going to survive to get to a period. Dr. Aleem used to always teach, you got to take care of your body so it'll be here long enough so that you can experience the promises of your God, because you're not about to die. That's an inferior belief, and go live somewhere in space. You got to get that thinking out of you, because they promise that they're going to bring you back to their religion. That's what the Quran says. You'll be fine if you come back to our religion. And that's where an invisible God, do you realize you can't even speak a word without form in it? So how are you going to have something that's formless teach form how to live a formless life, and you have no example of it? You don't know how to live a formless life. So I say to you, close your eyes, or I'll close mine, and let you form words and describe to me what heaven looks like. Then you tell me the streets are lined with gold. Well, wait a minute. Gold is here in the earth. You'll enter the pearly gates. Think of this now. And I can go deep in the ocean and find pearls. So you can't even describe heaven. You can't even describe. Then you say God got a crown on. So you keep using things that the eye can see to try to give me a picture of something that's invisible. So you're unable to rationalize. It's really an insane line of thinking. That's all I'm trying to say to you. And you got to reason it out. You and I are following an inferior line of thinking. Well, somebody had to die for my sins. And I understand sacrifice. But the cross, if you follow Jesus, he started talking about a cross way before he went to one. Did he not say, if any man be my disciple, let him first deny himself and then pick up his cross? And when you pick up your cross, follow me. That right there shows you he's not talking about a physical cross, two pieces of wood nailed together. He's talking about a burden that you pick up in a mission. This is long before he went to one. Come on, somebody. I'm trying to reason with you now, as I'm trying to reason with myself about what they've been teaching us. Well, child, if you don't accept this, because see, he rose from the dead. Okay. And when I rise from the dead, it's called the resurrection. But I go to the first book of Kings, and Elijah brought this woman's son back from the dead. Was that the resurrection? Before Jesus ever went to the cross, one man came to him and said, my daughter died. He went in there and put the folks out, and he brought her back to life. Was that he brought Lazarus from the grave. Come on, somebody. Was that the resurrection? So when we try to reason to it, we have to come. Then you got to ask yourself, how is it that the honorable Elijah Muhammad backed the white man up all the way against the wall on the reality of God, and they never challenged him on it? Then he began to take our nickels and dimes and get farmland. He began to raise cows and sheep. We began to set up meat processing plants. He brought large buildings for some of the seniors in the nation to have a place. He built the building for his secretaries to live in. He started a farm with 240,000 eggs coming in a year. When white people came to him, they expected to be taught. They didn't come to him the same way they come to you and I. They order you and I. They never ordered Elijah Muhammad. He was independent of them because his God is independent of them, and he was a 100% convert. We have an example that independence is possible while we're sitting right here. He never treated them as if they were superior, and he never handled himself that he was inferior to them. To be pure is to be free from anything that's inferior. Somebody said, well, you know, the minister had to wrestle with and accept that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him about his greatness. I said, you know what? You wrestling with what the minister taught you about your own greatness. We could have done great things in these past years, but the minister said in the guide to the minister, most of us have embraced a poor self-concept. The human being, they've proven she can't live beyond the concept you have of yourself. But when we really begin to see our greatness, guess what? You'll start doing great things. A person who can't see their greatness can't do great things. Even if something greater than what they're in happens, you know what they do? They'll mentally blow it all. Because internally, the way they see themselves is not a match for what's going on the outside. And when your self-concept begins to grow on the inside, guess what happens? If the outside ain't a match for it, you start changing what's on the outside so it can become a match for what you got on the inside. Are you following? That's why the Quran says, surely Allah changes not the condition of a people till they first change it themselves. Oh God, help me with a better existence. God said, then accept a better existence in your own thinking. Because I'm not after what you're trying to build around yourself. I'm after you. So when the children of Israel got all the way to the border of the land flowing with milk and honey and got ready to go in, God had to tell them, you know, go into the land. And then general order number 1 is in effect. And they could not obey the command. They realized the first general order, they couldn't even live up to it. Are you all listening to what I'm saying? He said, go into the land that flows with milk and honey and possess it. That means take charge of your post and all temporal property in view. And you know what? You really can't take charge. I can't even take charge of what's not in view. If I can't, and according to the study guide, view is the power of seeing. It takes power. It takes a powerful mind to see yourself the way God sees you. It takes a powerful mind to see the possibilities for your life that God already sees. So I'm a destroyed man. I'm rejected by our oppressors. All I see in my life is my rejection. So the most I can do is try to get a picket sign or a bullhorn and preach on the street against my rejection. You've rejected me. I'm discriminated against. You know, you treating some other people better than you treat. That's all I see. But look what Jesus said. The stone that the builders of civilization rejected. Now I have chosen you and I'm making you. I don't see what God is doing. I only see what my enemies are doing. That means I got a poor self-concept. Farrakhan don't have that kind of concept. He's exposing our enemies, not because they have rejected him. He said, to hell with your rejection, because God has accepted me. And I'm chosen by him. And the people that I represent are the people that God chose. He didn't go all over the earth choosing everybody. We're so busy trying to make sure everybody's included. They will be included when we get up and do our job. No, he said, I'm going to quarantine these people. When you're quarantined, they said, look, they're infected. They're infected with false teaching. They're infected with a poor self-concept. They're infected with unsanitary conditions. They're infected now with the wrong religious practices. They're infected now with self-hatred and a sick love for their enemy. Well, Muhammad, bring them over to us in Mecca to do this. No, they're quarantined. They're sitting at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's table telling him, bring your followers to us that we may teach. And he said, the hell I will. I'm not bringing them over there to sit with you. Mine are quarantined. We're getting ready for a whole new way of devotion. We're getting ready for a new Islam. The old Islam is going out. They've contracted a bad disease, but I got something that will make them recover. When I teach them and guide them, I'm going to lead them right into the face of God. Nothing in the face of God can be anything other than what it is. So we end up restored. Are you following? Nothing can be what it is. When you get in the face of God, you got to bow to his will. Satan is an adversary of God. His chief characteristic is deception. So he deceives the sons of God, joins their squad, and when they go before God, he's with them. And look what God said in the Bible. Satan, whence comest thou? He said, I'm going up and down, to and fro. See, that makes the cross. Seeking whom I may devour. And the minister had them pull that word up. Savior's Day. Where were we in the graduation? Satan, whom I may, somebody was sitting there with us, but we were in Detroit, but the minister said, let's stop right there. Look that word up, devour. And when they got through reading the long definition, it even talked about seizing your mental capabilities. Satan said, I'm seeking whom I may devour. So you got people sitting right in your camp, but they think just like me, because I have seized their mental abilities. And that's why Savior's Day, oh God, we were in Chicago, so it was right before this last one. The minister started listing his enemy. His enemies used to be the government, right? His enemies used to be those at the Vatican. He listed them. Those in Mecca. He got enemies galore. Then he started adding to the list, and he put the disbelievers there. Then he said the hypocrites. Look at the list of his enemies now. But then he added one more in that Savior's Day, the weak-minded Muslims. Because they're the ones that make the hypocrites effective. They're the ones who get, after being disinfected, get infected all over again. And they have become a great source of trouble, as they were for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They are a great source of trouble for the minister today. Because they don't know what to think, because we ain't rationalized this out. Get yourself mentally anchored in this. That God revealed himself to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Anything else that we come to, anything else that we embrace is inferior to that. To be pure is to be freed up from contaminants. When contaminants, bacteria picks up, and you grab these things and there's not a regular process of washing away contaminants, you'd be surprised the soil that will end up in your mind from the present world that we live in. And with social media, we can rapidly speed that up. And they're planting all kind of things out here. So what's a contaminant? Doubt. As I said at Jumar Prayer Friday, doubt is a mother. According to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when she goes to the delivery room, she delivers a child called hypocrisy. He said, doubt is the mother of hypocrisy. You know what you can do when you doubt what you're being taught? Ask a question. There is an answer. There's no such thing that there's no answer to whatever you're wrestling with. But if you're trying to get the answer out here from a confused man, then spiritual darkness sets in. I never forget, I saw a brother and he left the minister and ended up with old crazy Royal. And Royal said he was God. And he said he had been to the sun and back. And so somebody asked him in the question, well, how did you go to the sun? He said, I went at nighttime. Now, what you really should be looking at is not the crazy answer that he gave, but look at the people that have accepted that. There's no such thing as nighttime in the face of the sun. The purpose of the sun is that night is over. Are you following now? And the heat of the sun, belching 30,000 miles out from its own surface, 14,072 degrees Fahrenheit, you can't live under that. That'll burn your eyes out just crossing your face. It don't even have to touch you. How the hell can somebody go to the sun and come back? So I asked the brother, I said, man, what the hell are you thinking? What are you doing over there with this food? He said, Brother Rodney, I always had questions. I said, yeah, but we're in a nation that always had answers. Even if you got the answer and didn't accept it, that's one thing. But you sitting up listening to somebody teach you an inferior line of rationale, when not only were you being taught, but you're taught in a way that logic is added to it to help you begin to parse it apart and look at it. See, you know you got a good teacher and a good shepherd when he don't just tell you something and then tell you got to accept it. But he opens it up. He unpacks it for you. And you know I'm telling the truth about the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. He ain't taught us nothing that he didn't unpack. And it gave us a chance to look at it. So we end up with a contaminant, and it takes us into hypocrisy. And some hypocrites start actively working, because the government outside, they're looking for those kind of people on the inside to help them with their agenda. Well, I'm not with the government or nothing, yeah, but you're a facilitator of the conspiracy. And if you take the planet talk around and circulate it, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the third time you repeat it, you are part of it. By the time you repeat, you say, well, I ain't the one started the rumor, but he said the third time you repeat it, you are a part of it. And Allah will treat you like one who started it. You'll suffer the same fate as the person who started the evil. Are you listening to me now? Because now is the time that he's looking. The Bible says the fight is like this. It's between the serpent and the woman. Well, the woman is not a woman, it's a man. And if you study the Messiah, he's constantly styled in the scripture as a woman, because the minister said, until you see the woman properly, you'll never see God. So it's interesting that the person who's one with God in mind, heart, and spirit, perfectly united with him, that they keep styling him as a woman. So the woman bruises the head of the serpent. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is a man that God has furnished with an invincible truth. And when he preaches it, he's defeating the high-wise religious scientists of this world, because the poison that's in the head of the serpent is in their teaching. They have taken the prophets of God and they have poisoned the teaching of the prophets of God with an imperialist idea. And they were getting away with making all the prophets white. And through logic, if they're white, then God must be white. That's why you see it in the Malcolm X movie. He's asking about the picture up there. The man said, well, wait. God is white. Isn't that obvious? The person playing Malcolm said, no, that's obvious. You got them pictures up there. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the people come from that part of the earth are people of color. They don't argue with you no more about that. They've been backed up against the wall when it comes to that now. Even with Adam and Eve, Newsweek came out with a black man and woman on the cover talking about the beginning of life. That was years ago. But that only came after these little temples that set up all over the country, and the preaching of what was revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad began to circulate in the population that's out here. You're never going to get rid of this teaching. So whatever they're trying to do to stamp it out, you'll never get rid of it. It'll just metastasize and keep going. They said we got to stop it like they do the coronavirus. Get Elijah Muhammad off the street so he won't be teaching it. Put him in prison. He got in prison teaching the same thing he was teaching on the street. Then after he got out of prison in 100 FOI, you can't get it out of the prison. Don't care where you go. Somebody there is talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching. He said, man, how long you been down? 40 years. But they still talking about the teaching. You can't go nowhere. It's there everywhere. I just got a letter from one of the prisons talking about, well, what can we do? The people down here are saying we need fezzes on, and we need to wear our uniforms in the prison and everything. And you know, in the prison, they want complete control, so they don't want you looking like a paramilitary force in there. So when I go in there, I tell the brothers, don't salute me when you bring me up, because they scared. And they said, and the warden told me, he said that says to our officers that you're a big officer in a military thing. So, and I know I'm going home. I don't want them mistreated. You know, so I said, let's just shake hands and we'll go on with the meeting, because they scared as hell about the control issue. But we're talking about being free from contaminants now that people want to dump on you. You need a strong mind to stay with this work. And that's why the Quran keeps saying over and over again in injunctions, be firm against the hypocrites. Be firm again. It didn't say be nasty, didn't say be evil, didn't say be hateful, just be firm. Yeah, well, I hear you talking and everything, and you know, if you had a legitimate point, why don't you go meet with somebody? But I'm telling you this, I'll be out next Sunday. I'm heading on out whether you come out or not. The minister told us when we were in Detroit, do you love the people? He said, and if you love the people, then the mosque is the place to demonstrate it. So I thought about it. I said, well, can't they just go out and share the word and everything? The mosque is the place to help make that word a reality in your life. Because without you getting in an environment that can help you get shaped up, you want to win a championship fight, you can't go out and hang with everybody. You can't do everything everybody else is doing, as Paul said, and win the prize. You got to get in an environment and around people who are dedicated to your success when you get ready for the fight. The folks out there watch you fail in the ring and talk about you. But the people in the gym where you keep going, they're making sure that you're doing everything to build your body up and get your body ready to take a blow and deliver one. That's the kind of fight we're getting in now. It's on a spiritual level, but we got to train ourselves up in godliness, and part of that is freeing yourself from the things that are weighing you down. Look at what a disinfectant does when you sanitize to become pure. The study guy said you must be freed up from being ingenuine. Ingenuine means what you see is what you get. Huh? When you're ingenuine, you try to put a mask on because you're something else other than what you're presenting yourself as. So then what God does, he sets up tests that manifest all of us. So I just pray when my tests come, I really am a believer. But that's what I want to be. I want to be a genuine believer. You understand? That means any test come, I still believe. But so the minister just told us, he said, what we're about to do now is get rid of fake laborers. He said, and bold preaching is going to start the process. Listen what he's saying now. Because now, you know, the kingdom is like this. A man went and sowed a field of wheat. And then while men slept on their posts, an enemy came in, crept in, and sowed tares in among the wheat. Anybody that know anything about wheat and tares is that they look the same while they're growing up. So the gardener says, well, hold back. Don't put the sickle, because when you're trying to destroy the tares, you're going to kill some of the wheat. We have to wait till the harvest, because in the harvest, the wheat bears fruit, and the tare doesn't bear fruit, but it has a poisonous bud at the top of it. So you wait, now you're able to separate because you can really see. That means that for the believer, what Jesus is trying to show, the enemy of the believer, he's going to grow up and look just like the believer all the way to the end. And then when the tests go down, this is where the separation starts taking place. Just think of it. So being quarantined is what helps us to be free. You get in an environment where the precincts of that environment are set up to condition our minds to get ready for the separation from the present world order that we're living in. So being genuine is the best thing. You know what? When you're genuine, God can use you even if you oppose to his faith. Paul, the greatest preacher of Christ in this world order, he didn't start out a believer in Christ. He was actually Saul. He was one of the foremost that was opposed to those that believed on Jesus. He was there leading the crowd when they beat Stephen to death. He was so sincere in being against the people that believe. God said, I can use a person like that. You know why? Because they're sincere. You know, on the street they say they 100. He may be on the opposite side, but you know what? On the road to Damascus, I'm going to set him up. And before you know it, Paul was in the fruit class. Watch out now. They said, ain't that the man that used to be on the street preaching against us? Yeah, but he was genuine. And so I'm taking that man because he's sincere. I can take that sincerity and I can use it for the faith. And Paul went places that the other disciples wouldn't even go. preaching Christ. In the history of Muhammad, you had people upset about Muhammad. They said this new preaching is disrupting our way of life around the Kaaba, and the Quraysh were growing intensely angry toward Muhammad and the new converts that he was getting. So it was so bad that the Muslims never did their prayers. You know, you can't stop folk now. They be on the sidewalk and everything doing prayers. But back then, they would hide to do their prayers, and the believers would meet secretly, going over verses that had been revealed to Muhammad, peace be upon him. So a powerful man among the Quraysh named Umar, he said, well, if this man is so destructive to our way of life, why are we sitting around here talking about him? Let's kill him. So Umar took his sword and he went to find Muhammad so he could put an end to his life. And the only thing that distracted him was somebody told him, did you realize your sister and her husband have joined the faith? So he said, what? So it troubled him so that he got diverted. And when he went to the home of his sister and her husband, the history says he jumped on both of them and beat both of them up. He was a powerful man till he drew blood. And when his sister fell, there were pages that she had of the Revelation, verses that begin the Surah 20, Taha. And when Umar saw the words, "Oh man, we have not revealed this Qur'an that men should be unsuccessful," it touched him so deep that a man that was going to kill Muhammad with his sword, because he was sincere, Allah took that man, and that man now became part of the ranks of the believers. With the same sword that he was going to kill Muhammad, now he will kill anyone that would go after Muhammad. Not only that, when Umar joined, he didn't like secret meetings. So the history says Umar went out to the Kaaba where the Quraysh were, and he performed his prayers in front of them. And then after his prayers, and he wiped his face, he stood up. Anybody got a problem with that? Huh? And he told them, if you got a problem with it, he named a valley. He said, meet me over there, and your mama gonna weep over her loss, because we not gonna hide no more. He brought the believers out from their hiding place, and we started public prayers when Umar joined. My point is, when you're a genuine person, even if you're on the other side, God knows how to get you and maneuver you and bring you into the ranks wherever he wants you. Master Farad Muhammad did not design this. His call is not designed for a casual response. Even if you ain't doing everything you're supposed to do, make sure that your response is 100. Because if you come here and go there and come here and go there and come here and go there, the Quran says, well, you neither of this nor that. You don't belong to nothing. You ain't committed to nothing. You ain't got no principles. You got no purpose in your life. And when you're neither of this nor that, guess what? You're no good to this or that. A human being is created to have purpose. And what makes the human being great is when the human being is committed to a purpose that's bigger than themselves. I cannot find a purpose in my life that's bigger than me, that's greater than what the Honorable Louis Farrakhan have offered me today. Maybe you have something that you feel you can commit to. The Arabic word for pure, purity, because prayer purifies the heart, charity purifies your life. That's why it's called zakat. It comes from the word zakat, to purify. All of this purify. Why? Because a spiritual kingdom is being built right in the midst of these folks. And we have to show our God that nothing comes before him. Part of the corruption that oppresses us right now is because of money. And they won't give money to help a hungry child. Rush Limbaugh is cutting up on the radio about poor families, children going to stations at these schools to get a breakfast because they live with so much money. They've robbed us, so they've really tone deaf to the real levels of poverty that are out here. And you imagine somebody saying, I'm going grocery shopping, and you got $30. You don't know how to cook, so you're left to grab something out of the freezer thing that says bake in oven for this. If you do it on microwave, do it, and that's, because you don't know how to cook. I go and produce things and get, the bell pepper, the onions, and get, you're getting cabbages and different things, and you don't see a black woman in there under 40. The only young black women that I know that are cooking are the ones that are with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. That's not to put us down, but I'm trying to tell us what is happening to us. The kitchen, he teaches us, is the clinic. He even said, that I just read to the MGT, a clean room is medicine. A room that's free of debris and contaminants and junk and clutter and things serves as medicine. And anybody that does a job where you have to visit people's homes, some of us are living in biohazards. Chicken bones still down on the floor. No, I'm just saying. Something to do. What the hell done happened to the men? What has happened to us? That we've lost any control over our own communities and that. See, we need something that restores us. And when we're restored, our order is restored. Our women are some of the most gifted people on the planet. And in Islam, they're supposed to go as high as God-given gifts will take them. But just because they're smart, intelligent, wise, fearless, and will do things, that's no reason for a man to sit down and let the woman do all the work. We got to get out of that. They got a program now called Man Up. They're trying to help some of the folk, get there. When you at FOI class, you're not only man up, it's God up. You're trying to grow into something greater. You think this man built us up to really take care of business? No. He wants us ever dependent on him. Well, this Coronavirus is a teachable moment. Thank the brother that's under the overpass over there on Germantown Avenue. He got a table set up with all kind of items. You know, he sells dishwashing liquid, laundry detergent and everything. But he's been getting the sanitizer, the paper towels, the toilet paper, the wipes and everything. He got that table loaded. And what people can't get from the store, they stopping that brother over there at that table down there. I mean, he's trying to do something. He had been incarcerated for years. He doesn't have the capital to really set up a storefront to really operate. So, you know, he's trying to do the best he can. He ain't selling drugs. Huh? He ain't robbing somebody. You know, so I go do business with him because I want to encourage him, man. Keep going down that path. Because if I'm, you know, I'm waking up days ago and I can see you, God been looking at you. And he can set up things that can begin to work for you so you can become stronger in that area. And a lot of us, we got to start taking that step. Dr. King said, you know, faith is taking the first step even though you can't see the whole staircase. But real faith says, no, I ain't supposed to see the whole outcome. Most people in life won't go after something because they can't figure out how they're going to do it. That's the universe job. The fact that you got that idea, you think you came up with that on your own, your God has furnished you with something. It's a teachable moment to find out how much faith you got. And when that idea comes, you take the step, and guess what? If you take the first step, you'll be able to take another one. And it ain't that he'll produce a staircase. We ain't talking about magic. It was always there. We just can't see it because we can't see our own greatness. We got to use this moment, not to panic. This is a moment, man, where our faith needs to demonstrate itself. So let's get ourselves in order. Let's follow whatever instructions come that can help us with guidance, but we should never, as black men, sit down again. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum. All praises due to Allah. Anybody out for their first time? Anyone out for their first time, never been there? Thank you, black man. Thank you so much. Thank you for being out. All praises due to Allah. Well, you know, what we're learning from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is doing nothing but improving us. And he has shown himself to be a faithful teacher and leader and an example for us. And so, you know, if you're out for your first time and you feel that you're hearing something that's the truth and good for us as a people, I want you to know that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has extended you and others the invitation to come join up with him. That means that we're going to learn, because we don't suffer for lack of faith, we suffer for lack of knowledge. And so, you know, we want to learn, and that's the roadway and the passport Malcolm X used to teach for us coming out of our condition into a better one. So anyone that will do that, I'm asking you to come on up front so I can shake your hand, because this is Minister Farrakhan's invitation. I'm just letting you know that the invitation is extended out there. So come on up. If you're out for your first time, second time, third, and you haven't taken Minister Farrakhan's invitation to come on and be a part of a spiritual force in this country that will first bring change, but not change for everybody else and not you. It's got to start with you and then everybody else, at home and then abroad, right? So this is your opportunity. I'm just this little helper in Philadelphia, but you know, we want to ask you to come on up and be a part of our family here. And come on out and let's learn together, because that's what we're doing. We've decided we're going to learn together. So we thank you for that. If anyone else wants to do it and you don't want to come up front, just know that the Secretarial Department already has pledge cards for you, and you can go see them, and they can show you how to process this. Every Monday night, the FOI meet. Every Saturday morning, the MGT meet, and you can find out from them. And so what we want to do very quickly is take up our public offering. This is your opportunity to come on and help us now. And we've done this now for 90 years. We've been on this point, and the nation has kept going because the real bank of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is the hearts of his people. So is there anyone that gives $20, $50, $100? Who can give that today? We need your financial support, so we're asking for your help. Yes. $25, Sister Halima with 25. Come on, give her a big round of applause. Sister Halima. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you so much, sister. $100 coming from our own brother Divine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Who else will help us? $20. How many people can give